that I would present or bring to you the next presenter. Kazembe Bediako has been in the Saroset for many years, and the reason why I say for myself is because he had laid the groundwork with others to bring Qigong and many forms of Qigong to a Saroset, which I have personally adopted and have been using for almost 10 years myself, and has brought great health benefits to myself, and I'm sure to many of you. Kazembe Bediako was born in Georgetown, Guyana. In 1973, he immigrated to the United States. He received his bachelor's degree in English literature from Bernard Baruch College, City College, where he completed his first novel, Breakfire, which was unpublished, and finished his first book of poems, Negril, Poetry for the Bowl. He also studied the Chinese classic text, the Yi Jing, and Taoist classic texts, including the Wan Di Ne Jing and Tao De Jing. Bediako was then introduced to African cosmologics and oracular systems by his spiritual teacher, Raoul F. Amen I. Bediako has an advanced degree in the Japanese martial arts system of Aikido. In addition, he completed advanced training in the Chinese healing system of Tai Chi. He taught Aikido, Qigong, and meditation and yoga classes for 3 years. In 2003, as many of you might know, Bediako began his graduate studies in traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, at Pacific College of Oriental Medicine in New York City. He received his master's in this field in acupuncture and Chinese herbs, which is an amazing feat, some of you might know. In 2011, he published Behutet, The Warrior Within and Leaves of Life, Volume 1. He plans to publish his second book, Leaves of Life, Volume 2, Medicinal Plants of Guyana, and that will be released this July. He currently resides in New York City with his wife and his children. Without any further ado, Kazembe Bediako.
Thank you so much. And I must apologize, we don't have an overhead projector. So we got to do what we got to do, right? All right. So this lecture is really on looking at holistic herbal approach to common ailments, right? How do we use herbs, right? And what do you mean when we talk about herbs, right? Plants, as we know, have always been a part of our lives from antiquity, right? But right now we're facing a very serious situation where plants that come from our natural resources are being depleted, right? There's only like 4 original forest lands in the world right now. Everything else is being cut down, as you know, for uses in other ways. One of the remaining rainforests that remains today is located in Guyana, right? And the book that the young man introduced you to, that book talked a lot about the herbs that came from Guyana. And the reason why it was focusing on Guyana is because not only has the original rainforest, right? But think about it. If the land is being depleted every year, right? And it's being replanted, retoiled, cut down, and everything else, then the types of plants that's grown there, right? And the quality of the plants, when you intake those herbs, you could imagine what's going on. Compare original to contemporary, right? So that's why the source of where those plants come from is very important, right? So from a medical perspective, there are about 70,000 plants in the world that we use for medicine, right? Right now, we have only been able to tap about 10% of that 70,000, right? The Chinese pharmacopoeia has about 5,000 herbs, right? Ayurveda medicine, which is basically Indian medicine, right, tap into about another 2,000, right? The Germans about 200. And in the Western world, we are still counting probably like 6,000 plants that we use in for common day purposes, right? There's always an argument about the efficacy about herbs versus drugs, right? We know that, number one, that it's safer to use herbs, right, than lab-produced drugs, right? They have this strong natural antioxidant, detoxicant, scavenging, cleaning out, dual functioning purposes, right? So herbs, they are like, if you take a mirror, they reflect the natural orthomolecular structure of the body, right? And above all, there's no immediate reactions when you take herbs, meaning that, when you take a Western drug, there's always side effects. It always carries in the box or the bottle or the plant that there's side effects, right? So with herbs, there's basically no side effects, right? And when you look at the structure of the herbs of plants, right, they fall into basic two functions, right? Yang and yin, man and woman, positive and negative, anabolic, catabolic, right? It's about the same thing. It's about you taking a herb either to build up something and if you're building up something, it's because that state is deficient, right? Or you're taking it to cool or calm down something, which is the yin aspect of it. It's too much in excess, so you need to calm down, cool it down, right? And also, when you take herbs, the fact that it's going into your mouth, you have an oral consumption, the release of the active ingredients into the bloodstream is relatively slow. And the thing about it is there's no sudden surge. When you take certain drugs or pills, you get a sudden surge. There's no sudden surge, so it takes its time to work into the bloodstream, introduce itself into the body, so it's slowly into the system. So you don't have this sudden effect of it, right? A lot of the herbs that we take have like a dual purpose, right? You can take one herb and you can use it for hypertension, which is an excess situation, and you can take that same herb and use it to calm yourself down. Seems to be contradictory, right? But when you understand the mechanism behind it, then you will see, there's a purpose for it, right? So take, for example, a herb that everybody knows, ginseng, right? Sometimes people with hypertension, high blood pressure, severe high everything, they cannot take ginseng because ginseng is a yang herb, right? So it builds you up, right? It pushes your blood pressure up. Right? And then you take that same ginseng again, and it's a hypo state. It relaxes. Right? So what are we talking about? We're talking about the body has an ability to learn what's coming into his system and adjust to it. Right? I've given herbs to people with hypertension, right? Ginseng. But what kind of ginseng do I give it? I give it the yin. There's a yin aspect of ginseng also. Right? I don't give a Korean ginseng. That's like right over the wall. Right? I give it maybe some Siberian ginseng or some American white ginseng. Right? So each herb has like a dual activity, that works either way. Right? The key thing is that the herbal practice is always being connected to magic, right, or mysticism. Right? We go back and you look at the herb, it's always connected in the bush someplace. There's a healing doctor. They call them witch doctors. They call them bushmen. They call them whatever. But there's always that they have a sort of unorthodox healing aspect to them. Right? And basically what it is that they are taking the herbs to a level that is beyond biomedicine. They're taking it into the spirit. So that's why we say it affects your spirit. Right? In the category of herbs that I put together in that book, it has a section that deal with spirits, meaning that people use herbs to cast out spirits. Am I right or wrong? Is that unusual? Right? They use it as baths, right? So if you're taking it inward and is doing certain things inside of the body, why can't it apply outside? Right? So all herbs address an emotional aspect of people, right? But the key thing is like in the Norman of Shekman Shekman's book, healing, the true healing occurs in the spirit, right? So even though we take herbs, we take qigong, we do all of these things, right? The foundation and the ultimate healing takes place where? In the spirit. And that's the Kemetic contribution to herbal practice, right? That's been thousands of years being with us, right? There's something called the doctrine of signatures. Anyone ever heard of that? The doctrine of signatures basically says that it classifies herbs, right? So if a herb look a certain way, chances are it will take care of that ailment, right? So a lot of times we walk around in herbal areas, and we see plants, right? Sometimes the plants talk to us, right? Sometimes we look at them, and how do we know that that herb or that plant will address a certain condition in us? Right? The doctrine of signatures says that the shape of a plant, right, or the smell of a plant, or the color of a plant may suggest its cure. Right? Walnut. Everybody seen walnut, right? What does it look like? A brain. So what does it do? What do you think we're going to do with that when we eat walnut? Brain functions. Exactly. Right? Right? So walnuts, there's also plants that are yellow in color. Right? So I'm giving you little things that you can use when you go out there, right? Yellow in color. So what does that mean? It means that chances are it takes care of what kind of disease has yellow? Jaundice. Right? Sassafras. Right? Where does sassafras grow? Right? Between rocks. Right? So chances are the quality of that herb is to do what? Break things up. So you use that stuff for like kidney stones, gallbladder stones, all that stuff. You use sassafras and those things that have that ability to do, right? There were some plants that also you touch them and they give out a little bit of white latex. What do you think that kind of plant would be good for? Milk qualities, right? So we use it for fertility, right? And we go on and on and on, right? The key thing is that also plants has toxins and they drive toxins out of the system, right? As simple as this song and as long as herbs has been around, right? And as like 80% of the world depends on herbs, right? Nearly 1/3 of Americans engage in some sort of alternative medicine, right? Which means that there's a possibility that there can be some sort of interaction between herbs and drugs, right? The World Health Organization defines basically health is that there's a positive side of a person, meaning that there's a spiritual and there's a physical component, right? So when I give herbs out, I'm addressing more or less not only the physical but the emotional aspect of people, right? Western medicine, right, mostly things are broken down in categories. And I'm going to fast feed this because everybody's falling asleep. I know it's the heat in the class. Right? I'm going to switch this to some... well, one of the things about plants, when we look at plants and you want to know why we're using plants, is that they have certain compounds, right? So they have alkaloids, right? They have essential oils. They have organic acids, amino acids, proteins, enzymes, sugars, wax, resin, etc., right? One of the true wisdoms over the ages is that Chinese medicine have developed a practice around herbs, right? For 300 years, they have been using herbs, right? And they have systematized it into such a structural way that there's a way to diagnose when you have herbs, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, right? When Chinese medicine, you look at herbs, right? they don't see it as an individual, right? They look at patterns. They say that you do not exist by yourself, right? For example, if I go to a Western allopathic doctor for an ailment in my stomach, I get a pill that addresses that ailment. But isn't it true that the digestive system is also connected to all other systems in the body? So if you have that ailment there, it's going to override and also address other areas. So in addressing that one issue, when you leave that doctor and it may be a little better, chances are some other illness is going to pop up. Chinese medicine a little different. It looks at the whole body, the whole structure, right? So when somebody take your pulse to look at your tongue, do tongue diagnosis, or through listening to your history, right? They're looking for your whole story, and they're looking for patterns of diagnosis. So therefore, if I may give you you may be so tired, right, and you're depleted, and you can't sit any place still for a couple of minutes. You start falling asleep, right? Your energy level is so low. So what do? I say, well, okay, this guy is tired. Well, why is he tired? Right? There's something called 5-organ theory that we deal with, right? Which is basically, if you look at the 5 yin organs in the body, the heart, the liver, the kidney, the lung, and the spleen, right? And every ailment in the body is related to one of those organs. So the depletion in your body, it could be for your spleen, it could be from your heart, it could be from the liver, it could be from the kidneys. Which one is it? Right? And that kind of information comes from basically from diagnosis, either looking at tongue or pulse and listening for history. Right? So today, many of you attended some workshops. Right? Some of the workshops dealt with prostate. Right? So when we look at the prostate health, we want to know what types of herbs we can use for prostate. Right? I'm going to go through like 3 or 4 examples. We did hypertension, right? And I think there's going to be diabetes, or there's diabetes workshop going on now. So I'm going to look at addressing hypertension and diabetes and prostate from a herbal perspective. Right? There's a handout that I know you're supposed to have, but I don't have it, so I'm just going to go through this. Right? So prostate is related to, let's say, the most obvious diagnosis that somebody has prostate is either kidney yang deficiency or liver qi stagnation, right? Involving either the liver or the kidney, right? If we go with kidney yang deficiency, we're saying that basically the kidney system, right, that is responsible for a lot of the yang activity in men is responsible for your libido, right? That keeps you going over the years, right? If your libido is low for various reasons, a lot of reasons, you all know the reasons, right? The diet, the lack of exercise, hereditary factors, all those things, right? If that's low and it's due to kidney yang, meaning that the person has to get up and go to the bathroom, frequent urination, right? The drive is missing in life, right? Libido functions is down, right? Then we have a certain set of herbs that we give that person, right? And a lot of the herbs, right, could be either addressing and I want you to learn I'm going to let you learn a couple of the herbs so that you can go to the store and buy them. And we also have the package back here that you can buy also, right? But one of the strong herbs for a man function, right, is a herb called, I don't know how to say it, yin yang ho, right? Horny goat wheat. Yin, Y-I-N, yin yang, Y-A-N-G, ho, H-U-O, right? So in English it's called horny goat wheat, right? So this herb goes to most of the kidney and the liver, right? And what it does, it increases your libido, increases your ability to sustain your urine, right? It increases your energy in the body, right? It increases, most of all, that emotional aspect that make you want to go after things, right? Remember, life started out with you being hungry, right? You wanted to achieve the world. You want to conquer the world. You want to do all a lot of stuff, right? And then as the age go by, we begin to dwindle and compromise our goals, right? We're not doing that willingly. It's because our lifestyle and results in those things. So horny goat weed or yin yang ho has the ability very fast to energize your libido, right? So, like if you're studying, you got to do a lot of studying, you got to do a lot of mental work, you got to do a lot of physical work, and you don't have the energy. Yin yang ho, right? Another herb that one of the things that accompany people with prostate is lower back pain, right? So lower back pain is also, and again, I apologize for the slides because you would have been able to see a beautiful picture, right? On the lower back, there's a point in Chinese medicine that's called the gate of fire, right? Kidney 4, right? Look it up. Anytime you see an acupuncture chart. Huh? Oh, okay. Sure. Anybody, right? So anywhere around this area here, right, is kidney 4, right? Almost at the base of the spine, right? So thank you. So most acupuncturists do needling in that area. They do moxa. But when you take yin yang ho, duzong, long yang ru, those herbs, it increases the fire in that point, right? So if we say it metaphorically, it makes your back stronger. It also makes you stronger. It makes your initiatives, your drive stronger, right? So duzong, if you look at the herb duzong, and again, I apologize for not having it, it's the bark of a tree, right? And it's strong. When you pull it, it will resist you, right? That herb alone, right, has the ability to mend a lot of things in your life. Broken bones, right? Lower back pain, kidney pain, knee pain, any kind of joints issue, right? That's what duzong do, right? And it has a strong D-U-Z-H-O-N-G. I didn't realize I didn't have a blackboard here. D-U, do, zong, Z-H-O-N-G, right? And I'll tell you later on that where you can get it, because we have it here, and we have it in a formula package, right? So, yin yang ho duzong, right? Then you also have some herbs that we call long yang ru, right? Which is a dark herb, right? It has a little sweet taste, right? So that will address the lower back pain, but from a yin perspective. Remember I said there's a yin and yang, right? So it could be that the pain in your lower back is connected to, it's not connected to an excess where like you just burn yourself out by working 3 jobs and taking care of all of that stuff. It could be the other side. The yin aspect is depleted. You don't get enough sleep. You don't eat the right nutritional foods, right? So you get depleted from that aspect. So Long Yang Ru will beef up your system immediately from the yin perspective, right? Oh. LONGYANGRU, right? There's a formula, right, that we all should write down that is known as Sejun Satang, the men's formula. Like there's 4 herbs that women take regardless of what condition. It will not affect them if you're deficient. It will pull it up. If you're excess, it will equilibrate or balance it out. men also have such a formula, right? It's a basic formula, over 3,000 years old. It has worked. I haven't seen where it hasn't worked, right? So it's called Sijun Satang, or Sijunzitang, right? Sijun Satang. What does Sijun Satang do? Right? It is made up of 4 herbs, right? What are they? Baizu, Wang Chi, Huang. Let me just write a little clearer. Hua and G.
And the last word is
Qi, Qi. Wang Chi. Right? So, the chief herb in here is Renshen. We talked about Renshen, which is ginseng. Right? Yang herb beefs you up, tonifies your system. Right? Anytime you deplete it, can't help. Renshen is good. Ginseng is good. But again, you got to know what type of ginseng. There's a whole bunch of ginsengs that they sell out here, right? And you also got to know your system, right? If you're hypertensive or you're not, hyper or hypo, different types of ginseng will work for you, right? I'm just giving you an overview, right? Yes, sir.
Does this depend, like what the ailment is? Is that really important, or just in general?
These are called tonifiers. So it's tonifying your system if you're deficient. If you're excess, then there's a whole bunch of different herbs, right?
Yeah, like
so
arthritis.
Arthritis is a whole different formula because that's more or less like due to wind and chi movement in the bones, right? But these can also help you, and I can show you how, right? The Baizu, which is a chief herb, it's a spleen herb, right? Your digestive system, it governs that, right? Like we say, anybody over 30 should be familiar with Baizu, right? It's a herb that you take to adjust your spleen, right? The spleen takes the energy extracts the energy from the food and distributes it throughout the body, right? During that distribution period, if your body is not strong enough to push the chi in different areas, then it's not going no place, right? So it's due to deficiency, right? If there's enough power in your body to push it through and process it, then there's an excess. It's still not doing its function. The key thing is to equalize and balance it out. So Baizu you need, right? Fuling is good for like water distribution. When you're retaining too much water, Fuling gets rid of the water, right? Renshen, we also said it's a yang component. And the Wang Chi, which is basically one of the best herbs in the entire world, is used in any kind of deficient purposes, right? Like I see a lot of young men here, you go to school, you're tired, you're worn out, Wang Chi. A lot of the older brothers that overwork and do all the tired, it's basically a chi herb or an energy herb, right? And it is used mostly in extreme cases like in heart disease and stuff like that, where you don't have the energy to push things out. The sick conditions, you use Wang Chi, right? But this formula you should use like every day. Cook it, get those plants, get those herbs, and use it here. It appears in our pharmacopoeia, right, in the formula called neutral yang, what is it? No, neutral blood and chi. So if you go in the gift store, you see neutral blood and chi. This contains that formula, right? One of the best formulas in the whole world, believe me. Right? Now, let's say on the excess, right? The excess is the yang in your body is so hot, right? It drives everything up in the head. So it's hypertension, right? And hyper situation. So your excess. Somebody talks to you, off your mouth, right? Somebody's talking to you, you still can't listen to what the person, you're not receptive because there's too much fire in the body, right? So there's a formula we call Longdan Shegantang, right? And it has like about 11 herbs in it. Just in chocolate. I don't know if you know, you need to know that, but it's in this formula called Raw Longevity Formula. It contains a lot of the herbs. Spelled correctly? Or is there E in there somewhere? G-E? Got a lot of college students here, so I was just testing them out. All right. So Longdan Shegantang contains some herbs that are bitter in nature, right? They are bitter for a reason, right? If you have a lot of heat in the body and you drink too much sweets, it's going to add to the sweets, adds to the fire, right? If you have a lot of heat in the body, a lot of fire, what cools the fire down is bitters. It's the bitter property of the herb. So it's a bitter formula, but if you drink it, you feel good afterwards because it lowers the heat in the body, right? The formula is made up of a couple of things, right? One of the main herbs, not one of the main herbs, one of the herbs in there is called zixie, right? And zixie, what it does, it makes you urinate. So it gets rid of excess stuff in the body, but through urination. There's different ways you can get rid of heat, right? You can cool it down. You can get rid of it through making a person go to the bathroom and stool. You can get rid of it by driving the water out of the body, or you can dry it up, right? The chances are if you dry it up, then you may dry up too much. You got to know how to, use it. If you dry up too much water, then you got constipation, right? So zixie allows you to pass that heat out of the body through urine, right? It has another herb in there called, remember I told you that there's 4 herbs that the women use, right? It's called Suwung Sitang, right? One of the herbs in there is called Shendi. And Shendi Wang, right, helps with the yin aspect, right? So it would help, so it will make sure that you're not driving too much water out. You're not, so the Shendi will try to balance it out. Make sure you're not going too much in the excess, right? Then it has some blood herbs in there, like Dan Quay, right, which is number 1 women's herb. They want to pass it on to your wives, and a whole bunch of that chirsian, which is also another bitter herb that just drives the heat out the body, right? If we have, and that the same herbs go to erectile dysfunction, etc., right? Trying to fast forward this thing here too. So, one of the other best herbs that you can get to tonify whether it's hypertension or diabetes or low blood pressure is a herb called gochitsa. They call it lychee. Lychee berries. Lychee berries, those are called lychee berries, right? Gochi, yeah, gochitsa. Go, G-O-U.
What is it? G-O-U?
G-O-U. Go. It's also called lychee berries. It's red, right? The history about that herb is that they've been asked that a lot of herbal practitioners have been asked that common question: if you were stranded in an island, you only could take one herb, which herb would that be? Gochitsa, right? It goes to all of the organs, right? It's one of the, I can tell you, it does everything. It's for the eyes, it's for the heart, it's for all the organs, right? No matter how you use it, you tonify that. That herb does, you eat it. You take the little, it's a little seeds like, and you can just chew it, right? You put it in almost every formula. Gochitsa, right? Lychee berries. Lychee berries. Lichiee, something like that. Berries. Yeah. Right? So it depends on. So, but don't forget that even though I'm giving you a few herbal remedies, there's a whole pharmacopoeia out here of like patented herbs, right? You ever go to Chinatown and see those little pills in the bottle? Yeah. They're called patterns, right? And they're called patented herbs, but there's also the raw herbs. And I always prefer give my clients the raw herbs, right? In our store here, we have a formula called Nutrien, right? A Nutrien, remember I talked about the yin and the yang aspect? The Nutrien has those herbs that will take care of the yin functions, right? So the yin functions, like I mentioned before, is when it relates to sleep, when it relates to like even some like eye functioning. You find that you can. Let's talk about glaucoma for example, right? Right, glaucoma is like an excess situation, right? So much heat, right, driven up into the eyes, right, and it's so much heat that it spills over. The majority of people that have glaucoma have a lot of high states. They have hypertension also, right? So what do you want to do with glaucoma? Also, you see that also the fluids in the eye is dried up too, right, because of the fire, the heat. Right? So what you want to do with glaucoma is like you want to lower things. This called you will lower blood pressure. So you will not take herbs that are hyperactive. You will take herbs that are, yin in nature. Right? So that's why that formula, Longdon, Shake, and Tang, that is used for any kind of hyper situation has some yin qualities in it that will not drive things, make things worse, but will bring things back into balance. So one of the formulas that we have is Nutrien, right? Some of the patented formulas, Chinese herb pharmacopoeia that is used also to address the yang condition is like things like maca, right? I'm not going to sign off on these things because I know there's like there's different things. If you use it in a certain way, there's certain reactions to it, right? So I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not going to tell you about that. But I'm going to tell you that these category of things that I've given have been used to beef up the yang, to enhance the yang, right? So maca is one of them. Longifol is another one, right? Kasib Fatima also. And these herbs have a long history of being used all over the world, right? So if you try them, try them with your doctor's or physician's advice, right? But that's what they will do. They will increase your yang, right? So let's look at the liver, for example, right? So the liver, a lot of times you talk about liver qi excess, right, or liver qi stagnation. What does that mean? Is that I can look at somebody walk in the door, just look around here, and I can see liver qi excess or liver qi stagnation person, right? Because basically, what that means is that person is in an excess situation. So therefore, anything they do is excessive, right? They talk a lot. Their eyes is red. If you're a white person, you can see the blood up in your head, right? They probably have constipation, right? Because everything is excessive, right? And it's due to basically the liver being deficient or the liver being in excess, right? So one of the formulas that we have here to address any kind of liver deficiency, anything to do with liver, and you've taken the rest of classes where they go through the Qigong and they talk about the 5-organ system. So if you have a liver issue, which is like one of the key things with liver qi stagnation is what? Somebody's prone to anger very easily. They're not receptive. They can't hear you, right? They jump down your throat all the time. That's a liver qi person. The liver's out of balance, right? So there's a formula called Yin Hun that we have here. YinHun, right? That will address that issue, right? Heart problems, right? With emotions, you can't manage the emotions, right? On a physical side, it may be palpitations, it may be heart condition, right? The formula that we have here that we usually use is like basically yin, a blood and qi herb formula. And I don't see any here, but one of the traditional formulas that's used for that is called Swan Saren, SUAN, SAREN, Swan Saren. And it has a lot of the good herbs for the heart. The number one herb for the heart is called Danshen, DANSHEN, Danshen. So any kind of heart problem, palpitations, excess, valve issue, Danshen makes the heart stronger. Right? You got folks at home that has heart conditions and stuff, look at Danshen, right? Yipo is related to the lungs, right? Any kind of lung excess condition, bronchitis, pneumonia, anything with the lung not able to hold and distribute the qi and the water, right? Yipo is a good formula for that. YIPO, Yipo, right? So let me just recap. So what I've tried to do is to show you that Chinese herbs has been there from the beginning of time, right? And every drug that you have out here, right, came from herbs, came from a plant, right? I don't know if you know the history of the drug industry, right? But basically, all those pills that you see goes back to the 1800s, right? When the pharmacopoeia, the drug industry really sprang up. And what it is that they will send a lot of the people they disperse them into the jungle and the forestry areas of the world, and then they observe how people are using the herbs, right? Then they take that knowledge, take the plants, take it back to the lab, synthesize it take it apart and study the ingredients and how well weighed against the local testimony of how well they've used those herbs, right? And then if it works, then they synthesize into a pill and sell it. So the key thing is that it comes from plants, right? As a result of they being able to copy the properties of the herbs and mass produce it, means that there's no need for forest land anymore, right? During the Second World War, what happened to a lot of the plants, right? They were cut down to build rubber, to build a lot of the machinery that we used during the Second World War, right? And as a result of that, the forestry is being depleted over the world, right? The plants have the same properties as the body. They're natural. They're safe, right? Then there's no side effects to using herbs, plants, right, or herbal medicine, right? So one of the key things that you want to look at is that if you're taking medication, you may want to look at an alternative system, right? A herbal practice that will give you the same benefits without the side effects, right? There are 5 organs in the body, right? If you look at that system, the 5-organ system, right, any one of those organs are out of whack, either due for excess or deficiency, you will take certain herbs, right? And I've given you some of the formulas. If you're a man, you want to get this stuff down. If you're a woman, there's like 4 basic herbs that you take. If you're yang deficient, your kidney, you don't have the energy, right? Libido is low, then you take herbs like duzong, right? Yin yang ho, long yang ru, right? If you feel that there's an excess in your body, there's too much heat, you can't focus, you can't keep yourself still to meditate or anything or be receptive, then chances are there's too much heat in the body, then you take long dan shay gan tang, right? A lot of bitter herbs in there. Yes, sir. So, just for one quick question, how much more time? Am I over time? Past time?
1 minute, couple of minutes.
Okay, so we can take some questions.
Yeah, I want to know about a real good herb for the lungs in order to increase the capacity to meditate and to deep breathing.
Good question.
Okay.
If you want to.
No, it's up to you.
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah. If you want to. One of the better herbs for the lung is called bangsha, right? Bansia, right? Bangsha is like, you use it in any kind of like phlegm condition, right? Any kind of like dry condition, right? So like for coughs and yin types of deficiency, bangsha. And it comes, there's a formula that it comes in that also mixes it in with other herbs that will keep the balance. It's called bangsha ho potang, right? Bangsha, Bansia Houpotang. Bangsha ho potang. P-O, right? Very good for the lungs, right? It's about one of the chief herbs, right? Questions? Any other question?
Going back to what you said about laws of signature, and you said like the same herbs that you can use to dispel. Well, to me, I'll think of like an herb that's anti-parasitic. You know, dispelling parasites is also one that you could say could be a spiritual herb. Could you know, because as above, so below is the correspondence. So if it dispels worms inside of your body, it can also dispel spiritual things that are eating at your life force or your energies. Would you agree?
I agree 100%. 100%, right? A lot of the Western herbs, right, or even the Chinese, you know, the Chinese herbal history is a little different. In the olden days, they used to talk about evil spirits and bad spirits and causing all kinds of things. But TCM, as you know it today, took all that stuff out. They don't talk about that, right? The book that I'm doing on a lot of herbs in Guyana talks about that. Because back there, we talk about you having an evil spirit on you, or you know, this person send this and do that kind of stuff, right? Forces that interrupt your life force, right? So a herb that will cleanse, that is detoxifying internally, also does the same thing externally, right? There's a bush in Guyana called Jumbi Baby, right? And Jumbi Baby is used to expel hard toxin conditions in the body, jaundice, you know, think of something else, like, you know, some serious STDs, right? That HIV and stuff that's lunged in the body, right? But that's the physical side. But the outside is that the herbal people in Guyana use that herb because they said a person has a jumbi, has an evil spirit on them, right? So that herb, but also they give them in a spiritual bath or in a spiritual way to cleanse the body and the spirit and the aura. You know, it's also used to clean the house out, right? You take that herb, you put it in some water, you soak it for a couple of days, you take a broom, and you clean your house out with it, right? Cleaning out entities that destruct your space, right? That you know it's there, right? But you don't know how to classify it, you don't know how to deal with it, right? So that's a very good example of a dual-purpose herb that, you know, does it inside as well as outside. Questions? Any other question? So if there's no other questions, we're going to end this because I don't want to go beyond time. But one of the things I can do is that I apologize for the slideshow. But if you have an email address, just leave it with us, and I'll forward you that slide. And right, he's going to take care of that. All right. So thank you so much. I know